The aroma of roasted coffee filled the elegant kitchen on a quiet winter morning, reflecting the perfect life she was living. There was no warning of an approaching storm. The velvet curtains cascaded softly, allowing the cold threads of sunlight to sneak across the wooden floor. She stood before the window, watching the falling leaves, listening to her husband's footsteps descending the stairs, ready for a new workday. She had always believed her marriage was an impenetrable fortress, and that the love they shared for 7 years was the kind you read about in classic novels. But on that specific morning, there was one tiny detail, so very tiny, that was enough to be the first thread to unravel the cloak of deception covering her entire life. He approached her and planted a quick, distracted kiss on her forehead, muttering his usual words about traffic and long meetings. He grabbed his leather briefcase and his mobile phone, which hadn't left his side recently. In that exact moment, the phone chimed with an SMS tone. His hand trembled slightly, and he quickly concealed the screen in a way that might seem natural to a casual observer, but was completely transparent to a woman who memorized his movements as well as she knew her own face in the mirror. She offered him a feigned, cold smile, said goodbye, and stood watching his car pull away from the driveway. It wasn't the first time she had noticed this nervousness, but it was escalating. His sudden withdrawal, his exaggerated attention to his appearance and cologne, and the working hours that stretched to devour their quiet evenings. She returned to the dining table and began clearing the dishes. Her mind was racing faster than her hands. She decided to ignore the matter as usual, preferring an illusory peace over a destructive war, until the doorbell rang. Her closest friend, the one who shared every detail of her life, stood there with her usual bright smile, holding a box of her favorite sweets. The friend entered, filling the space with her laughter and endless chatter about her daily life and projects. They sat together exchanging conversation, but something was different this time. The friend avoided looking directly into her eyes and spoke rapidly, like someone trying to fill the silence for fear it would expose her. Amidst the conversation, the friend's phone slipped from her bag onto the sofa, its screen lighting up to announce a new message. She didn't mean to snoop, but the distance was close and the words were too clear to ignore. "I can't wait to see you tonight. Your scent won't leave me." The sender's name was saved as just a single letter, but the thumbnail image beside it was part of a photo she knew all too well, a picture she had taken herself of her husband on their last vacation. Time stopped in that moment. The blood froze in her veins, and she felt as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. The walls of the home she had built with love and care began crashing down on her head in absolute silence. Her heart clenched with an agony that nearly tore her chest apart, but she didn't scream. She didn't weep. She didn't throw the phone in her friend's face. In a fraction of a second, a terrifying transformation occurred within her. The naive, loving woman died, and another woman was born, cold, sharp, and precise as a surgeon's scalpel. The friend turned to grab her phone in a panic, asking if she was all right because her face had suddenly gone pale. She painted a calm, soulless smile on her lips and replied in a steady, unwavering voice, "Just a slight dizzy spell. Maybe I need some rest." The friend left shortly after, leaving her alone in the spacious house that suddenly resembled a graveyard. She sat on the cold floor, leaned her back against the wall, and began retrieving every detail she had ignored. The stolen glances between them at dinner parties, the identical excuses they would fabricate, the gifts her husband bought claiming they were for female clients at the company, only for her to later see them adorning her friend's neck or wrist. The deception was being practiced right before her eyes, in her own home, blessed by her absolute trust and naivety. In those long moments of silence, she made her decision. If she confronted them now, they would deny it, they would cry, and they would invent 1,001 excuses. They would turn the tables on her, accusing her of madness and pathological jealousy, and in the end, she would be the sole loser, broken and betrayed while they continued their lives. No, screaming wouldn't restore her shattered dignity, and tears wouldn't wash away the filth of their betrayal. The revenge had to be the size of the deceit, and there is nothing more destructive than a trap spun quietly in the dark, a trap that swallows them slowly without them realizing who opened the door to the abyss for them. The days passed heavily on her heart, but she was quick and calculated in her mind, which had transformed into an unerring calculator. She began the second phase of her plan, a phase she secretly named poisoning the well. She was fully aware that a relationship built on betrayal and theft is fragile. A mere breeze of doubt is enough to destroy it from within. She used her morning meetings with her friend to pass along precise, poisoned information. With features veiled in fake anxiety, she told her that her husband had secret overseas accounts, that he was preparing to invest millions of dollars in a massive project without anyone's knowledge, and that as his wife, she feared he was planning something that would harm their future. She watched the gleam of greed ignite in her friend's eyes. Knowing these words would turn into daggers plunged into her lover's back at their very next encounter. Her wait was not long. Thanks to a tiny, precise listening device she had skillfully planted under his car seat and in his briefcase, she began tuning in to their daily theatricals. At first, the conversations were full of flirtation and rosy plans for the future, but the tone soon changed. The friend started demanding her share of the secret funds the wife had claimed existed, accusing him of selfishness and planning to escape alone, leaving her in the shadows. For his part, the husband was going mad, swearing the most solemn oaths that he possessed nothing but what they had planned to steal together. But doubt had already seeped into the friend's heart. A traitor never trusts a traitor, and that was the golden rule the wife had bet on, winning the wager flawlessly. As the tension escalated between the lovers, the wife began tightening her grip on the financial side, the true nerve center of their plan. Her husband held a general power of attorney from her, which he planned to use to sell a valuable property she had inherited from her father, transferring the funds to his personal account before fleeing. Smartly and calmly, she contacted her lawyer and legally revoked the power of attorney in total silence, then transferred the property's ownership to a closed trust bearing only her name and her family's name, making it completely immune to any tampering. She didn't stop there. She wanted to strip him of his own money as well. Through a seasoned, shadowy financial broker she trusted, an exclusive investment opportunity was presented to the husband, a chance promising to double his money in weeks to fund his anticipated escape. Blinded by greed and the psychological pressure exerted by the friend, he liquidated everything he owned, even taking out bank loans secured by his company, and transferred it all to the dummy account. A few days later, the broker vanished, and the money disappeared into an untraceable legal black hole, ultimately landing his fortune in a safe, independent account belonging solely to the wife. On the night he realized he had lost everything, he returned home as pale as the dead, trembling with terror at the fate awaiting him. She greeted him with a warm smile and a calming cup of tea, asking with manufactured tenderness if he was facing problems at work. He pretended to keep it together, but the collapse was eating away at his soul, and his eyes betrayed his terror. The next day, the wife listened to the audio recording of his meeting with her friend. The confrontation was stormy and disgusting. When he told her he had lost all the money and that they had to postpone the escape plan or start from scratch, the mask fell completely from the face of the loyal lover. She screamed at him, hurled the foulest insults, and threatened to expose him if he didn't compensate her for the years she wasted with him. The alleged love turned into hatred and blatant blackmail. He listened to her crying and cursing her luck, while he pitifully begged her to stand by him. As for the wife, she listened to all of this while sipping her morning coffee with extreme coldness, enjoying the symphony of their self-destruction played by her own fingertips. The husband became cornered in a tight spot, drowning in debt, threatened with bankruptcy, and blackmailed by the woman he thought was the partner of his dreams. In contrast, he found a safe haven in his wife, the good woman who knew nothing of his sins, who cared for him in his crisis and eased his burden without asking questions. His guilt and fear were killing him slowly, and he would sometimes look at her with eyes full of suppressed tears. But the wife was not going to be satisfied with this amount of psychological torment and financial ruin. She wanted the knockout blow to be public, decisive, leaving them no room to rise again or wear the masks of innocence. She decided the time had come to execute the final chapter of her plan. She sent out formal, elegant invitations to all their mutual friends, their families, the husband's business partners, and even prominent figures in their social circle to attend a grand, upscale dinner party at their home to celebrate their 7th wedding anniversary. She made sure her friend was among the first invitees, personally insisting she attend to share her joy and celebration of her marriage's resilience. The husband rejected the idea, pleading and using the suffocating financial and psychological pressure as an excuse. But with her calm smile and innocent looks, she convinced him that this party was exactly what they needed to forget work worries and perhaps regain the trust of his business partners. He didn't know, and the friend didn't know, that this charming dinner would be the courtroom where the details of their crime would be read out in public, and that the guillotine had already been raised, waiting only for a single signal from the hand of the wife, who stood preparing her elegant black dress, watching the scene like a cruel, merciless queen, ready to bring the curtain down on this play forever. The crystal chandeliers sparkled on the ceiling of the spacious hall, reflecting their warm lights on the faces of the guests who arrived one after another. The house looked like a piece of paradise, decorated with white orchids she had chosen with extreme care to reflect the false purity enveloping this night. She stood in her black silk dress, which wrapped around her body with strict elegance, looking like a crowned queen, receiving her guests with a calm and confident smile. The attendees included the elite of society, from her husband's business partners to their families and mutual friends. Amidst this crowd, her husband stood beside her, breaking into a cold sweat despite the chilly weather, handing out shaky smiles and trying in vain to hide his intense confusion and the financial defeat that was gnawing at his soul from the inside. The friend was not late to arrive. She entered with confident steps, wearing a striking red dress, as if deliberately trying to draw attention and assert her presence. She approached and hugged the wife with fake warmth, muttering the usual words of congratulation, before stealing a quick glance full of contempt and blame toward the husband. The wife watched this silent exchange with complete coldness. She knew that the friend was here tonight not to celebrate, but to blackmail the husband after he told her about the loss of the money they had planned to run away with. The atmosphere was charged with a hidden tension, perceived only by the three of them, while the rest of the guests enjoyed the soft jazz music and glasses of fine beverages. When the time for dinner arrived, the wife invited everyone to gather around the main table, decorated with candles. With an elegant movement, she held her glass and tapped it with a delicate silver spoon. Everyone fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. She smiled amiably and spoke in a clear, steady voice devoid of any tremor. "My friends, my family, and partners in success, I thank you all for attending tonight to celebrate our 7th wedding anniversary. They say the 7th year is the year of major transformations in any marriage, and it is the year in which truths are revealed and promises are tested. And because you are a part of our lives, I did not want this day to pass without sharing with you the real secret behind the continuation of this marriage and the strength of the bonds that bring us together." She pointed her hand towards the end of the hall, where a large projection screen slowly lowered from the ceiling and the lights gradually went out until only the screen was illuminated. The husband smiled nervously, thinking she had prepared a video montage of their travels and romantic memories as she usually did every year. The friend sat cross-legged, watching with artificial boredom. The presentation began, but it did not carry romantic pictures. First, very clear photographs appeared on the screen. The husband and the friend in a fancy restaurant, holding hands. Then another picture of them entering a hotel. Whispers of astonishment rose among the attendees, and the friend swallowed hard, while the husband's face turned gray. Before anyone could comprehend what was happening, the screen changed to show close-up shots of text conversations between them. Cheap words of flirtation, escape plans, mockery of the clueless wife, and most importantly, details of transferring money and liquidating the husband's assets in preparation for the escape. The husband tried to rush towards the projector to stop it, but the wife had secured everything, and there was no connected computer to stop. The presentation was pre-programmed. And at the moment he turned to the audience trying to utter a word, Sound erupted from the speakers, distributed across the hall. It was a crystal-clear audio recording of the last argument that took place between the husband and the friend in his car. The friend's voice echoed throughout the hall, sharp and greedy. "Where is my money that you promised me? Do you think I will stay with you when you are broke? I have wasted my years with a stupid man who doesn't even know how to steal from his wife properly." Then came the husband's voice, crying and humiliated. "I have lost everything. Please don't leave me. I will compensate you. I will find another way to take her money." Silence struck the entire hall like a thunderbolt. A fork dropped from the husband's mother's hand with a ringing sound. The business partners stood frozen in their places, looking at the husband who was exposed as a traitor, a fraudster, and bankrupt all at once. As for the friend, the color drained from her face and she stepped back, trying to hide from the looks of contempt and disgust that surrounded her from every side. She was completely stripped of any mask, exposed before the society she had always feigned perfection in front of. The light suddenly turned on. The wife stood in her place. She did not cry, she did not scream, but maintained the same calm, cold smile. She walked with steady steps toward a small table, picked up a thick brown envelope from it, and walked toward her shattered husband who had fallen to his knees, unable to comprehend the scale of the destruction. She threw the envelope on the floor in front of him and said in an audible and clear voice, "These are the divorce papers, signed by me. I have also attached your bankruptcy documents and records proving that you transferred your money of your own free will to fake accounts that do not exist. As for this house we are standing in, it was legally sold 2 days ago, and you all have until tomorrow morning to vacate it." Then she turned to her friend, who was trembling and looking for a way out, and said in a tone dripping with ice, "Take him now. I have emptied him out for you of everything, of money, of dignity, and of respect. He is entirely yours." The wife did not wait to hear a response or an apology. She picked up her small handbag and coat and walked among the guests who made way for her in stunned silence, with respect mixed with awe. She opened the heavy house door and stepped out into the cold night, leaving behind the ashes of a fake life in which two traitors were burning, deserving of each other, after executing the calmest and cruelest act of revenge a human could ever witness. Don't forget to like and subscribe.